I never got to ask you about Hulk Hogan, but how you feel about him passing away?
The Hulk Hogan thing is real personal for me, Art. You want to know why? Because while I was studying Black consciousness in fourth and fifth grade in North Philly at the George G. Meade Elementary School at 18th and Oxford Street, I was a Hulk Hogan fanatic. I was the number one Black Hulk Hogan fan in the world, Art. I was talking like Hulk Hogan. I had his shirts. Whenever Hulk Hogan came to the Philadelphia Spectrum to wrestle, I went to every Hulk Hogan wrestling match. I had the Hulk Hogan dial, the Hulk Hogan belt. I had more wrestling magazines than anybody else. I mean, he wasn't my only wrestler, but my parents didn't know no better, and they allowed me to idolize a white man. And look, so many years later, that white man I idolized as a child, because it didn't last long. It was only elementary school, right? But that white man I idolized as a child ended up being one of the biggest racists in sports and entertainment. His daughter didn't even go to his funeral. And I don't speak ill of the deceased, but his daughter didn't go to the funeral. I don't know if that's because of his bigotry against blacks or for other reasons. But nonetheless, it was very disheartening to find out that Hulk Hogan didn't even like black people. Look at all the money black people put in his pocket, Art. Look at all the money. Those wrestling matches I used to go to, half of them was black. Black people was into wrestling heavy, Art, even though we found out later most of those wrestlers were racist. I didn't know how racist those wrestlers were until after I got out of it as a kid. You know, I was done with it by late middle school. I was definitely done with it by high school. You know, I had a good fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, maybe eighth. I had a good 4 or 5 year run with it, but I was Hawkmania everything, Art. And look at that. And this is going on today with black kids. We got black kids idolizing white people, football players, basketball players, actors, Marvel comic heroes. They're going to find out 30 years later, they couldn't even stand black people, just like Hulk Hogan. I'm telling you, Art, what are the 3 rules of racism? All white people are racist. They may not be a bigot. Bigot means they hate you. I don't think all white people hate blacks. That's bigotry. I don't believe all white people hate black people, but all white people have a vested interest in making sure that people control the resources, the opportunities, and the privileges. All white people are racist. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, white people don't share power with black people. Never have, never will. And rule number 3, white people are ruthless when it comes to controlling blacks. If I gotta invent AIDS, I'll invent AIDS. If I gotta push LGBT on your kids to destroy your community, if I gotta drop off crack, if I gotta drop off guns, if I have to overthrow and assassinate, I will do that as well. Those are the 3 rules of racism, and every black person needs to understand what they are.
What you think about the people that were celebrating that he died?
I don't think you should ever celebrate a person's death. I didn't celebrate Hulk Hogan's death. I didn't celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. I'm not going to celebrate the death of the next racist who dies. I don't believe in that. I think some things should be sacred. And for me, as a priest of the ancestors and African tradition, I will never celebrate anybody's death. I would never do that. And I would hope nobody would ever celebrate my death. Now, with that being said, Art, do people have a right to reflect upon your legacy honestly, but respectfully? Hell yeah. So if black people want to have a conversation about Charlie Kirk, the racist, respectfully, without poking fun at his death, I see nothing wrong with that. If black people want to have an honest conversation about Hulk Hogan without poking fun at his death, I don't see a problem with that. People have a right to look at your record after you're gone from this world and decide what place they want to assign you in history. If you are a public personality, you automatically forfeit the right to not be judged publicly. Judging someone and assigning them their proper place in history is not the same as mocking someone's death. I don't think you should ever mock someone's death.
And I know as of late, you've been very, very adamant about telling men to have sexual discipline.
Black men have to be disciplined sexually because, number one, what's the greatest stereotype in American history? The greatest stereotype in American history is black men are like sexually uncontrolled animals. And if we ever get access to a Caucasian woman, we will take advantage of her. Art, do you know why marijuana became illegal in America? I want you, when you get some time, I want you to do the research on why cocaine and marijuana originally became illegal in America. And guess what? Both of those substances, cocaine and marijuana, originally became illegal because white people believed that when black men got intoxicated with cocaine and marijuana, we would lose all sexual discipline and we would go after white women. Do your research. That's the original reason for why those drugs were outlawed. When we were under their influence, white people propagated a myth and a lie that we became sexually uncontrollable and we put white women at risk. Remember, the first motion picture in American history, Art, was what? The first modern movie was Birth of a Nation. I forget the year, 1916, 17. The president of the United States had a private screening of Birth of a Nation at the White House. And what was Birth of a Nation about? All these free black men are now going to do what? They're going to chase after white women. And in the movie, because they didn't let black people play in the movies back then, white men in blackface playing black men was running around doing what? Looking for white women that they could sexually dominate and take advantage of, bro. The whole history of America is the history of believing that black men have a uncontrollable lust and a sexual rage for the white vagina. Segregation, Art. What is the foundational reason for segregation? To keep the black man away from the white woman, because if you don't, he will take advantage of her against her will and will produce mixed race offspring. Do the research on segregation. All the fathers of segregation in Germany, South Africa, London, America, I know them all. They were psychologists. And they said you got to have segregation to protect the purity of the white race. It's not that white women want the black men, it's that the black men can't but help themselves to the white woman, even if she doesn't consent. So as a black man, Art, you are always up against that. So these brothers who keep going after these white women because they got low self-esteem and need validation in order to feel like a man, they better look at the risk versus the rewards. Look at Sharon Moore, Art. Look at this. This is insane. You was a $6 million a year man when the sun came up, and you was in jail and unemployed by the time the sun went down. Double snow bunny. And JD Vance is talking about we don't care about what color you are in America. He said, I love the fact that Nicki Minaj says we don't care what color you are. We care about who you are. That's a damn lie. If everybody was given equal opportunity, where's the white privilege? If everybody was given equal opportunity, where's the white control? Art, do you realize if you got rid of everybody's color and you only chose the best people, white people will lose their control over this society? You cannot protect white privilege and have a colorblind society. You have to practice racism. It's the only way you make sure your people stay in charge. This whole thing of reverse racism, how can black people be reverse racist? We don't control nothing in this society. How can I systemically discriminate against all white people? You can't. Racism is a group system. It requires that all white people participate. No white person does not benefit and support it. No black person is not victimized by it, whether you Sean Combs or DK Metcalf. Everybody's victimized by racism because it is a group system to do what? Control all the resources, control all the privileges, and control all the opportunities. That's all racism is. Domination of resources, opportunities, and privileges. In order for black people to be racist against white people, we have to be able to control the resources, the opportunities, and the privileges. And what institution, what sector of society, what business, what trade, what profession do black people control the resources, opportunities, and privileges. And to that point, Art, you saw what Donald Trump did, right? Donald Trump reclassified certain professions as non-professional for purposes of student loan eligibility. So if you are getting your degree, Art, in a professional discipline, you can get $200,000 of federal student loan money. You with me?
I'll follow you.
200. But if you are pursuing a degree in a non-professional area, you can only get $100,000 of student loan money. If it's professional, $200,000 of student loan money. Non-professional, $100,000 of student loan money. And look at the professions that Donald Trump has reclassified as non-professional for student loan eligibility. Listen to this: nursing, social work, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, psychotherapists. He also put architects and engineers. Art. Except for architects and engineers, almost every other career that Donald Trump unclassified as professional, although black people are still underserved and underrepresented, Art, there's more of us in those professions than others. Nursing, Art, we're still underrepresented, but there's more black people in nursing than other professions. You follow me? There's more black people in social work than other professions. There's more black people in counseling than other professions. There's more black people as occupational therapists and physical therapists than other professions. So the reason Donald Trump, Art, declassified them or unclassified them as professional is to limit the amount of black people who can access enough money to pay for those credentials. And Donald Trump is talking about we don't live in a racist society when Donald Trump is deliberately trying to reduce the number of black nurses, deliberately trying to reduce the number of black social workers, deliberately trying to reduce the number of black OT and PT therapists. Because you know, Art, college is about making sure the workforce stays predominantly white. When I was in college, Art, I was a psychology major, obviously. And guess what? When too many black students wanted to be psychology majors, guess what my college did? They all do it. They upped the requirements for you to be in that major. See that, Art? They made it harder for you to get in once too many black people wanted in. They do this with everything. This is why they use these tests. They always want to test. You know why tests were created? Tests were created to exclude black people from certain professions and to deny them opportunity. And this is not conspiracy. This is fact. Look up a white man named Henry H. Goddard. Look up a white man named Henry H. Goddard. He's one of the fathers of the psycho-testing movement in America. Look up Cattell. Look up Alfred Binet in France. These are the white men who gave birth to the psychological testing movement, and they created this during eugenics to exclude black people from having babies, not just going to college. They use these tests to exclude black people from having babies, getting married, living in certain neighborhoods. This was bigger than just going to college, Art. So what Donald Trump is doing, he's practicing eugenics and higher education to turn nursing back to an all-white profession, although it is. From where they sit, too many black people are in it. Social work, turn that white. They need to whiten it back up. It's getting a little too tan. It's getting a little too brown, Art. And when I say brown and tan, I'm talking about black folks, not nobody else. They need to lighten it back up again. Racism, white supremacy every day, all day. The minute you think racism don't exist is the minute that racism no longer has to be accountable for what it does. See, the new racism, Art, is to act like there is no racism. That's why they got Candace Owens and Nicki Minaj running around telling people America the beautiful, America the great. I don't want to be judged by my color. If you really understand white supremacy, you understand white people can never not see your color. It's too much of a risk is too much of a threat. They are a numerical minority. They can never not see your color. In order to be in charge, I must control the others. And in order to control the others, I must control the color. One of the reasons they pushing the integration, the intermarriage thing right now. One of the reasons they pushing this on black people, get married to a white person, get married to a white person. They don't do this to nobody else. You don't see Indians in commercials with Mexicans. You don't see Mexicans in commercials with Arabs. You don't see Chinese in commercials with Latinos. You only see black people in commercials with white people. They're pushing this black-white romance, this snow bunny romance. Why? To lighten up the complexion of black people. So we get light enough, Art. You kill off the color in about 3 generations. The DNA is there, but the phenotype is gone after about 3-4 generations. And so then guess what happens? You redefine blackness out of existence. There's no more black. There's only biracial and multiracial. There's no more black. And black people are not even recognizing you're killing yourself. You're committing self-inflicted genocide through the snow bunny hop. Because if you have a baby with a white woman, and then that baby has a baby with a white woman, and then that baby has a baby with a white woman, 3-4 generations down, are you even identifiably black anymore? See how this works? Genetically, yes. Phenotypically, no. And what do we know about most mixed race blacks? They don't want to identify as black. They want to be seen as white or mixed race. So 20 years from now, Art, 25 years from now, 2050, the third quarter, they're going to pass a law and say, guess what? We only have 1% black people. Everybody else identifies as biracial, mixed race, quad race. We only got 1% black. So shut down the HBCUs, shut down the civil rights, shut down the black community. We don't have a black community no more. We have a mixed race community. I'm promising you, Art, by 2050, black may no longer be listed on a U.S. census because we would have already whitewashed ourselves out of existence through the bunny hop. And don't get me wrong, I accept mixed race Africans. If you come to me and say, Dr. Umar, I know I'm super light black, but my mom is black, my mom is black, or my dad is black, guess what? I'm accepting you because I know nature knows no color line. But most of these mixed race kids are going to be raised by their white mama. She ain't giving them no black conscience, no black identity. They're going to pull the Amber Rose on you. And much respect to Amber Rose, but she says, black people told me I wasn't black. That's what she says. Is it true or not? I'm going to take the sister at her word. She says, I didn't choose to be mixed race. Black people told me I was mixed race. So there you have it. And you do have a lot of black people, Art, who don't accept mixed race. So since you don't accept them and you pushing them over there, that means they count against us. They count against you. They count against our population. 2050, Art, don't be surprised if Black American no longer exists as a racial category in America. And don't forget, you got the pretendians out there. Don't forget, I'm not from Africa. I was already here. I'm a Seminole, a Chickasaw, a Choctaw, a Cherokee. Don't forget them. They automatically remove themselves from the equation too. So let us keep on playing these identity games and this snow bunny game all we want. 2051, Black American may no longer exist as a category in this country because they're going to say y'all too mixed up. Y'all want to be mixed up. Y'all don't want to be black. Nobody wants to be black anymore. So get rid of the political designation. Trust me, Art, it's coming. And I hope I live to see it.
Have you seen a new Dave Chappelle stand up?
I saw the Dave Chappelle stand up. And I'm going to say this. I met Brother Dave for the first time in Columbus this year at the Columbus Black Expo. He was there. Talib Kweli was there. A lot of the celebrities was there. And we gave each other a dap and a quick hug. You know, Dave Chappelle, obviously, you know, he's married to a non-black woman, Asian woman. Respect to him, his wife, and their children. And as you know, I don't support interracial dating because black men should be with black women, not because of any hatred for anybody else. With that being said, I think Dave Chappelle is the most politically unapologetic black comedian in the 21st century. I'm almost ready to say of all time, but Richard Pryor was pretty unapologetic as well when it came to racial issues. But after Richard Pryor, somebody of Dave's stature, I don't know, with the exception of Richard Pryor, I don't know of another unapologetically, politically unapologetically black comedian like Dave Chappelle in our history. Paul Mooney was very unapologetic politically, very politically unapologetic, but he never got to the stature of a Dave Chappelle, in my opinion. He may have had it before, but not in my lifetime, right? I think Paul Mooney was the most political of them all, but publicly, at Dave Chappelle's stature, saying what you feel, how you feel it in front of white people, I got to give my brother his flowers. I got to give Dave Chappelle his flowers. In that series that he just did, which he called the N-word act. And the reason Dave Chappelle called it the N-word act is he was drawing a parallel between the first heavyweight black boxing champion, Jack Johnson, and Puffy Combs. And so the stand-up was called the N-word act. I'm going to say the Negro act, but he didn't say Negro, okay? The Negro act. Because basically what Dave was trying to show is this law, and we talked about this before, Art, I think, this law that was created to bring down Jack Johnson because he was sleeping with white women and white men didn't like it. This law, racist law, created to bring down the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson, the Mann Act, which forbids interstate trafficking for purposes of immorality, is exactly what Sean Combs was convicted of. And of course, I correctly predicted that Sean Combs would only be convicted for that interstate prostitution on your show. I said that's the only thing he will be found guilty of, and that was the only thing he was found guilty of. So Dave Chappelle was trying to show that even with all of Sean Combs's excesses and abuses, it still came right back to we must control black men by any means necessary. And in that stand-up, Dave Chappelle talked about how he did a show in Saudi Arabia. And during that show in Saudi Arabia, he said he can speak freely in Saudi Arabia during his stand-up, and I'm paraphrasing him, but he can't speak freely in America. And that drew the ill repute of a lot of white conservatives and liberals who accused Dave Chappelle of un-Americanism. And of course, they also tried to criticize him because he said there was a journalist who was murdered in Saudi Arabia, Art. And they said to Dave Chappelle, why are you doing a comedy show in Saudi Arabia if they unalived this journalist? And Dave Chappelle said, well, Israel has unalived, allegedly, at least 240 journalists. And y'all not telling nobody not to go to Israel. So I'm not supposed to go to Saudi Arabia because a journalist was unalived once. But Israel has unalived 240 and nobody's saying anything about that. The stand-up was very bold. I was impressed with the level of Dave Chappelle's audacity. That was probably the most unapologetically black stand-up I saw in front of a mixed race audience in the 21st century. So I got to give, even though I don't support interracial dating, I got to give my brother Dave Chappelle his props. He also talked about the whole transgender thing and how he could make transgender jokes in Saudi Arabia, whereas in America, if he makes those same jokes, you know, he gets criticized for it. People try to cancel him for it. And this is supposed to be the land of free speech. Okay. And that was another thing Nicki Minaj said that I didn't agree with. You know, she said when Erica Kirk asked Nicki Minaj, what brought you to change your political opinion or bring you to the Donald Trump, you know, team? She said, because I got tired of being pushed around and being told that I'm not allowed to have a different opinion. But Art, isn't that exactly what Donald Trump did when Charlie Kirk was murdered? When Charlie Kirk was murdered, they didn't allow anybody to have an opinion. You had to be pro Charlie Kirk. You had to be You had to support the legacy of this racist white man because Donald Trump said so. I think they wanted to lay his body in state at the White House or in DC. I don't know if they did that or not, but they wanted to lay his body in state. He got his own holiday, October the 14th, Charlie Kirk Day. And then Dave Chappelle talked about that, how black people had to fight like hell to get Dr. King's birthday to become a national holiday. And Charlie Kirk Day, I don't know if that's his birthday or not, October the 14th, became a national holiday. And guess what? It had bipartisan support. You had the Democrats and the Republicans came together to endorse October 14th as Charlie Kirk's day. Black people and white people came together to endorse Charlie Kirk's birthday. Van Jones, who I'm going to have to call a hypocrite because he is Democratic Party plantation slave number one. Snow Bunny Van Jones is Democratic plantation slave number one. And even he, I believe, supported the Charlie Kirk national holiday. You know what I mean? So Dave Chappelle was just looking at all these contradictions in American society, and he did a very good job exposing American contradictions. And he basically said, listen, y'all going to have to look out for me. Y'all going to have to protect me because I don't want them to do me like they did Charlie Kirk. He said, I didn't expect my voice to become as powerful as my voice is. You know, and he said, listen, I'm just going to have to keep on doing shows in Saudi Arabia because I'm going to say what I want to say. Ain't nobody going to stop me from giving my honest opinion. I'm not trying to hurt nobody, okay, but I'm going to tell the truth as I see it. And he said something to the effect sarcastically at the end. He said, I'm not going to, don't quote me. He said something to the effect of, and I'm not going to say the code word, or in order to be protected, you got to say the code word. And the code word is I stand with Israel. And as you know, Art, we just saw Floyd Money Mayweather, okay, receive some sort of a award from the Zionists, you know, where he said he's going to be a staunch supporter and defender of Israel and all this and that. You know, we saw LeBron James with the Zionists, you know, before he was declared to be a billionaire about a year or two ago. So they own our athletes, bro. They own our athletes. They own our actors. They own our politicians. Jasmine Crockett, and I don't know if this is true. Much respect to the sister because she's running for Senate. I hope she wins, although I really haven't seen enough being done for black people. Too much celebrity, not enough service, in my opinion. But I'm going to be patient with my sister. Give her some time. You know, too much celebrity. Too much celebrity. Where's the substance at? But I'm going to give her some time. She wants to be a senator. I say let's vote her in. The people who have to vote for her from her state of Texas. And let's see what the sister does. I'm not impressed because I'm just seeing too much celebrity, not enough substance. You know what I mean? But she is being asked and she is being accused, not proven, Art, accused of also being a flunky for the Zionists. They said she voted on a couple of policies that were favorable to Israel and what they were doing over there to the Palestinians in Gaza. You know what I mean? So again, I'm still studying, I'm still searching, I'm still waiting, but some people are saying that she too is under the control of the Zionists. So again, the question is, what black people are actually free to serve black people? Because if you're taking orders from Israel, you definitely don't care about black folks in America because they don't. And I'm still waiting for somebody to finally hold the Israelis and European Jews responsible for their role in the transatlantic slave trade. They did not play a minor role in our slavery. They played a major role in our slavery. And if they're going around expecting everybody to pay homage to them for what they went through at the hands of Hitler's Germany, and I don't have a problem with that at all, what happened to them was wrong. But if people should honor you for what you've been through, and if people should be held accountable for what they put you through, you should also be held accountable for what you put African people through. They sold us. They insured us. They built the ships that sold us. In fact, Jewish slavery, Art, was so bad that they used to sell black people out in front of synagogues in Europe. They were selling us in front of their, yes, sir, this is documented. Black people were sold in front of Jewish synagogues, and in some cases, allegedly inside of Jewish synagogues. So, you know, I have a problem with people constantly reminding the world that they were mistreated when you participated in our mistreatment and you have never apologized for it. You have never offered any reparations for it, and you have never been held accountable for it. And I can't, you know, agree with that. But the Dave Chappelle Netflix stand up, definitely a must see. Definitely a must see. He brought up Dr. Sabi in there. You know, it was good. It was good. I really thought it was. I really thought it was good. Couple times caught me off guard a little bit, but overall it was excellent, and I think everybody should watch it. It's one of the most unapologetically African comedy stand-ups I've seen in a long time.
It sounds like you like Dave Chappelle. The only issue you got with him is him dating outside his race, but for the most part, you rock with him.
I like Dave. Dave got a good spirit. Yeah, my only issue with Dave Chappelle is he went outside of the community for his wife. He went outside, just like Richard Pryor did, just like Eddie Murphy did. A lot of the comedians, I don't know what it is, but it might just be black male celebrities in general. But a lot of the comedians, the more popular ones, they went outside the community for their wives. Yeah, but he's definitely unapologetic. Most black comedians are not going to say the things that Dave Chappelle said in that stand-up. And I gotta respect him for it. I gotta respect him for it. Before watching that stand-up, I had Cat Williams as number one in terms of being unapologetically black on the microphone in front of white people. Cat Williams was number one. But after watching Dave the other night, Cat moves to number two and Dave moves to number one in terms of political courage on